Hi, I'm Greg Dell here with attorney Rachel Alters, and today we're going to do our Answer Questions by Our Lawyer segment, where we answer a bunch of questions about Sun Life Disability Insurance Company, and specifically we're going to focus on questions related to appeals. So we'd like to think in this segment about if the claim was denied, and I'm someone who has a Sun Life policy, what would be some of the commonly asked questions that we've received from the thousands of Sun Life, denials and appeals that we've handled, over the past 20 years. So first question that we commonly get when someone calls is, Rachel, can I win my Sun Life disability appeal? And meaning, do they ever reverse these things?
Right.
Go ahead.
And the answer to that question is yes, they do reverse their decisions. Can you win is going to depend on a lot of factors. It depends on what the medical care that you have received as a claimant, what your doctors are documenting in their progress notes, the type of objective proof you have to support your disabling condition. A lot of factors go into it. So it's not just, an easy answer. It would depend on, I would have to review a lot of documentation, and then I could probably give a better response.
And I like that. I want people to know that these claims are winnable, because there's a lot of other claims out there, whether it's an auto insurance claim or health insurance claim, and people are like, no, I'm not doing that. It's a nightmare. And the reality is that Sun Life wants the claimant to go away.
Sure.
Like, let's deny them, let's force them back to work because they don't have any other source of income, deny them, and we won't have to deal with it. And they think that it's, I'm not going to go down this road because it's going to take forever and I'll probably end up with nothing. But it's not true. These claims are very winnable, but you have to be prepared.
Right.
In terms of Sun Life, when you get a claim file, and a claim file is when a person's been denied, the insurance company is required to provide you with a copy of every single document, information, video surveillance, anything they have related to that claim that they touched, notes of anyone they spoke to.
Sure.
But what is your opinion as to the most important information in that claim file in order for you to form your strategy as to how you're going to win this appeal?
It's usually, so when I get the claim file, I will review it and I look for the medical records first because I want to see what the disabling medical condition is, what the insurance company has already seen, what their doctors are relying on when they deny the claim. So what happens is an insurance carrier usually hires their own peer review doctors. They review the information, which is mostly the medical documentation, and then they make a determination based on the medical documentation, and then they'll write a peer review report, which is also normally contained in the claim file, giving their opinions as to what they reviewed and why they believe this person is not disabled and able to go back to work. So that's a very important fact that I like to make sure that I review these peer review reports to see, number one, what type of doctor did this peer review? Was this doctor qualified to give these medical opinions? And what did the doctor rely on? Did they speak to the treating doctors? Sometimes they'll say, tried to call the treating physician, didn't get a response, so never tried back. I'm going to make a determination without speaking to the doctor, just based on the medical review. That happens often. Sometimes I hear all the time from treating doctors that they never received a phone call.
Right.
They never get a message, that either they're just saying they called or they called a wrong number, and they're just trying to make it out like the doctors are not cooperative. Most of the times, doctors will speak to these peer review physicians and give an opinion as to whether they believe their patients are disabled if they can get hold of them, but the doctors are busy and they have to give them time. So I find a lot of times they'll call, give it a day, and then just, give their opinion when these doctors, they have patients to treat, so they need some time. So I do focus a lot on the medical records, the peer review reports, in order to get, kind of a big picture of why Sun Life has denied the claim.
All right, so you get this. So the most important thing you're looking for in the claim file is the peer review, the medical records review, say what from a medical perspective did your doctors tell you to make you come up to the decision to say that we're not going to pay.
Exactly.
All right, once you are armed with that information, what's your strategy moving forward to try to put together a winning appeal? And I know it's different for every medical
Sure.
condition, but there's some general things that apply to all the cases that make this a challenge for someone to be able to do it on their own, but obviously the way that that we do it, it's still challenging, but they need to know these are the processes and there's a lot of moving parts. So I wanted you to talk
Sure.
about some of those.
Yeah, usually when you get a denial letter, and not always, but usually they're supposed to put in the denial letter why they denied the claim, what their doctor's opinions were, and what was missing from the claim. What is it that you could further do in order to get the claim approved? Sometimes these are in the denial letters. According to federal law, they're supposed to put that in. And when they do that, I take a look at, okay, well, they're saying that, you haven't had a neuropsych evaluation, or you haven't, had a CT or an MRI of your lumbar spine, or whatever it is your disabling condition is. They're saying, okay, well, we couldn't approve this because we don't see any objective proof of your disabling condition. So that's the first thing I will look at and say, okay, what did Sun Life claim was missing? Let's check the medical records. Let's see if these tests were done. If they weren't, communicate with the treating doctors to get these tests ordered if they are
Right.
tests that are valid. I think that's very important. Oftentimes it's just sometimes as simple as getting some tests ordered, seeing what the results are. Sometimes it's a nerve conduction study to prove that somebody has, radiculopathy or nerve damage, and that's something that wasn't ordered by the doctors, and so, or the patient didn't want it. So that's just, it's about communicating with the claimant, the doctors, and seeing what other testing can be done. Sometimes a functional capacity evaluation, which is a test to see, how long a person can sit and stand and lift and push and pull and all the things that, are required to do when you have a job 40 hours a week. We are able to get those tests done as well, which kind of gives a big picture of what the claimant can do. So I look at all of that and see what was done, what wasn't done, what's missing, what could help add support for the claim before we actually file the appeal.
And then I know there's something you do that you've do really well and that you take a lot of pride in, and that's your custom attending physician statements.
Yes.
And talk about what those are. It's not something that someone's going to go find on the internet,
Right.
but why are those custom and unique in every case you do, and why do they become one of the most important elements of every appeal that you submit?
Sure. So there's an attending physician statement that every claimant's going to get from the carrier, whether it's Sun Life or any other
Right.
insurance carrier. And it's going to be basically a one-page form that asks your doctor to fill out questions. It gives them literally like a line to discuss why they believe you're disabled, what are your restrictions and limitations, how long they think you're going to be out of work. But they're very specific, and a lot of times they're leading the doctors into saying things that basically aren't going to be supportive to your case. A lot of those forms will say, not even offer, they'll give you check marks and they'll ask, what type of work can you do? And one of them will be, can you do sedentary work? But they don't offer, a section saying, well, but you can't even do sedentary work.
Right.
Because doctors, they just fill it out, they're busy, and they get it back, and these claims get denied based on these attending physician statements because of the way they're written by Sun Life. So we prepare them, depending on what your condition is, we'll prepare them specifically for that condition. So if it's, if you have a severe, lumbar disc situation
Right.
and you can't sit for long periods, we're going to prepare, a 2 to 3 page, sometimes longer form specifically for your doctor to fill out to discuss, what your specific issues are. We will put into the form what your job duties are,
Right.
what your requirements are for work, et cetera. And then, ask the doctor to, to specifically say, why you can and cannot do certain things. How long can you sit? How long can you stand? Why, why is this claimant in pain? Is the pain that they're in legitimate? Do you believe that they're malingering? Malingering means, kind of exaggerating or
Right.
faking. We have the doctors, and we give them plenty of space to explain and put in their comments. And they're really helpful because when the insurance carriers get these, it's kind of hard to refute. When a doctor says, this person cannot sit for 40 hours a week, there
Right.
is no way, and these are my reasons, and what's it backed up by? Well, all of the objective evidence, the MRIs, the CTs, they had 3 surgeries or whatever, and,
A lot of times, see, the perspective we take that people who are saying, like, do I need a lawyer, or why do I have a lawyer, or why do I want a really experienced lawyer? Most of the people watching these videos are like, yeah, I want a lawyer, or I want some tips. But the thing is that we're looking at every case because you've litigated hundreds of these cases, right? And so you are looking at it through a light, not just, I know what it takes to win your appeal, but I also know the next step, which is how the court's going to look at this.
Sure.
So I need to present all the evidence to the doctors when I'm trying to get these custom attending physician statements, because first thing is I know all the things that the insurance companies use as excuses, so I'm thinking about all those things. So I'm going to ask the doctor every single thing that I've seen over the past 20 plus years of doing this, that insurance companies say, well, your doctor didn't say this, your doctor didn't say that. So we don't leave any stone unturned because we're asking all the questions, because we're not going to get that denial letter that says doctor didn't say this thing, doctor didn't say that. We've done that. And now we know when that custom attending physician statement comes back and goes to their doctor who they're going to hire, that doctor is not going to be able to say, oh, treating physician didn't comment on this, or that. And because of this strategy of really working on these custom attending physician statements, I tend to tell clients that that's part of 80% of the work that we need to do for your appeal. Because we're taking, now you don't just go, okay, I'm doing a custom attending physician statement. We also try to obtain additional evidence, like you started off talking about with the testing or examinations or consulting with a functional capacity expert or whatever experts, a whole world of tools, I say. But then we take all the tools together and bring it back to the doctor to say, answer these questions. It's almost like it's our deposition. It's our question of it's the doctor's opportunity to testify. But we also have to do it in a way where the doctor's only going to give us so much time, right? They're not just going to be like, sure, whatever time you want. So we got to make it succinct and easy for the doctor to do, and then take all of that. So try to get people to understand that so much work is done during the appeal process. Of course, you could try to do it on your own, but if someone calls you after, which they do all the time, we can't do anything once the final appeal has been denied by Sun Life. We're done. And the reason for that is because the law is whatever's in the record is what you're married to, and you cannot add anything else. So you want to, the most important thing to do right now is the appeal, which is why we're focusing on questions, related to appeals and providing these tips so people do it right and don't make a mistake on the appeal.
Well, the appeal is essentially your trial.
I believe it is. Because that's all the evidence, because someone can be, and I tell someone an extreme example, God forbid you submit your appeal, they deny you, and the next day, you get hit by a bus. We can't even tell the court that you've been hit by a bus and lost your leg because it's not relevant. It's not relevant evidence. Sun Life doesn't have to consider it. It's not part of your claim, and you could lose your claim based on everything that happened up until that final day, despite the fact that there's no doubt now that you're disabled. So you really got to do an amazing job with the appeal, and make it so that Sun Life has to say yes, you're disabled. So we have tons of questions that we've answered, not just about Sun Life, but with all kinds of appeals. And I encourage people to go on our website, take a look at the answer questions we have, all of the testimonials we have about cases we've handled, and reviews about Sun Life. Feel free to call Rachel, myself, no matter where you live in the country. We'll always provide you with an immediate free phone consultation.